Welcome, everybody. This is the last panel, I believe, before dinner and all the parties. So we're going to try to make it as interesting as possible and really get into some interesting DePIN topics. So thank you, everyone, for joining. It's really a good crowd, especially for so late. So thank you. So really quickly, I'm Garrett Kinsman, the co-founder of Nodle. We've been doing DePIN for over a decade now, starting with smartphones using decentralized wireless networks. Now we're very focused on verifying data using blockchain, proving that images or data is real. So I wanted to have an interesting DePIN discussion with you guys. Maybe really quickly, we just do a round of introductions, 30 seconds, kind of who you guys are, what you're working on before we get into it.
Hi, this is Felicia Deng from Fogworks, and we build FoggyMax. This is a data serving DePIN at your home and to empower the Web3 and AI.
So I'm Arbi, head of strategy at Rivalz. We're building a infrastructure for proprietary and personal data sets, which can power AI apps and systems.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jonathan of ExaBits, and ExaBits is building a liquidity protocol as well as a compute protocol for DePIN. So we're suppliers of GPUs, IONET, Akash, Aether, Heuris, Ritual, and a whole bunch of AI companies.
Hey guys, my name is Cameron. I'm one of the BD leads at DePHY. We are a DePIN developer framework built on Solana right now. So we'll help DePIN developers launch their project in as little as a week.
Good evening. My name is Tobo. I'll dual fist this. I'm with CoralApp. We don't want mic screen. Anyways, CoralApp, we're making a Web3 AI phone to put power in the power of the user so that they can participate in a Web3 lifestyle.
That's awesome. Thank you. So DePIN is kind of a new word. I remember hearing about it like 2 years ago, I think in the Masari paper, and was like, wow, they finally named something that we've been doing for so long. Like, this is cool. We have a category. And then there were talks and panels and conferences now just focused on DePIN. So when was kind of the first time you guys heard about DePIN and this kind of piqued your interest? Like, what got you into this stuff?
Yeah, I go first. Thank you for bringing it up. We share the same feeling. Actually, our co-founder coming from hardware, from Web2, most of them. And we do have Web3 founders and who are the kind of key author of the ERC 721. And also we have a co-founder who built P2P network 10 years ago in China, in like we call the Xunlei. He's the architecture for the Bankeyun is kind of the P2P network. And we have been doing it for a long time. When we first got the pre-seed, like back in the 2022, and we showed them we're going to do this. This is second generation. We have a big box, the first generation. At that time, our investor told us, we're not quite interested in the hardware. We're quite interested in the software, something like that. So at that time, we feel a little bit disappointed, but luckily we got $3 million funding a pre-seed, and then last month we just closed up the seed round. Thank you.
This is cool.
I think with DePIN, most systems were always centralized. Internet of Things, centralized system, fitting. So DePIN was just a matter of time. The Rivalz, we wanted to do to solve a very specific case. So with Rivalz, we wanted to fix a very specific AI use case to provide data in a more ethical sort of regulated way. And the thing that made sense for that would be through a DePIN network where data is more democratized and available to more people to access, right?
Yeah, my exposure to quote-unquote DePIN was in passing. So first discovered Akash, storage, Filecoin, IPFS. But then when I really dived deep was when devices like this came out with Holochain. The Holochain had their device, and then came Helium. So Helium is really when I dove deep in to what DePIN is actually contributing to the ecosystem.
Yeah, I think DePIN is one of the most interesting topics in the space, given that it's so tangible. We're trying to sell new technology to folks that maybe don't care about the blockchain aspect of it, and it seems like DePIN is really on the forefront where you can sort of touch it, feel it, and you can see its benefits, whether it's faster, cheaper, whether you're able to sort of spin up the supply side where you weren't before. I think I first got into it seriously probably with the Solana Saga, which came out relatively recently. But signing up for a Helium mobile plan, using some GPU mining apps like Grass, like Uprock, I kind of just got hooked immediately.
I want to do it a little different. I want to bring you guys way back. Let's go back to the mid-1990s. There's a program called SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. It ran on a computer, and it was a screensaver. And it decentralized organization of waves coming from outer space to try and find outer space aliens, basically. And then after that was Folding at Home, which came out of Stanford University. That was decentralizing the decoding of the human genome. So the user, like myself, would download a little slice, process it, and send the results back to Stanford. After that came the Bitcoin network. I first started mining that in 2010 on a laptop, my computer. And so DePIN has a really long history. When I think of
you could definitely argue it ties back to the SETI at Home program, which is kind of crazy.
When I think of the first crypto DePIN, I think of PrimeCoin, which was looking for the largest PrimeCoin number as the computational proof of work for a crypto coin. This is back in 2012, 2013. So it's come quite a long way since then. Now we have DePIN that actually serves us and sticks around and serves the individual users. So I think we've come a long ways, and I'm really excited to see all the future that's happening in this field.
Yeah, now when we pitch people and we say DePIN, they get it. They understand what we're doing. That's cool that you say the SETI stuff. That's definitely an interesting space for us. I don't know if we're going to go down that rabbit hole yet, but maybe. I think that's an interesting one for sure. I think one of the kind of the elephants in the room is does DePIN actually work? Like, there's a lot of instances where having a centralized computer has thermal, has cost efficiencies. Doing things in a centralized fashion is actually really great in many cases. Obviously, I'm a big believer in decentralization. So where does DePIN work better than what's existing today? And maybe instead of just going down the line, maybe anyone have any interesting insights on where does DePIN fundamentally have significant benefits compared to what we're doing today?
I'm a privacy advocate, and I have to say that DePIN plays a central role in preservation of privacy. For example, having the Pole phone has an AI neural network on the phone, so you get to process that physically on your phone, and it preserves your privacy instead of sending data to OpenAI or some other AI aggregator that collects data. You can keep it on your phone. Now, if you want to sell it, you can, and participate in that collecting of data and selling of data, but the user is the one that gets paid. And we don't currently have that system where the user providing the data directly gets paid directly. And so I think that's one area where DePIN is going to really accelerate the privacy that people get to experience integrating into a digital world, especially in a Web3 way.
Yeah, piggybacking off that, I think you bring up really good points on sort of user data. For years and years and years now, companies are profiting off user data, and it's only becoming more and more important. As our lives become more and more technologically advanced, that data is just more important. Taking it a different direction as well, I think some of the easiest examples are the ones where, we have idle sort of GPU power, whether it's smart devices, phones, laptops, smart refrigerators, your cars. There's so many smart devices right now that 95% of the day, they're not doing anything. So I think that's some of the most interesting applications.
Well, I want to dive into this because clearly there's some experts in this decentralized compute space. Just to kind of play on the SETI reference. So have you people heard of SETI before? So SETI is essentially mapping the universe in electromagnetic waves. Part of it's to understand really where we came from, but a big part of it is to understand, hey, is there somebody out there, an intelligent life form, sending a message? And there's massive amounts of resources going towards this, very, very large amounts of computing power. And when looking at very large compute problems, be it weather, be it simulating nuclear processes, be it cryptographic processes. People build the largest supercomputers in the world to do interesting things. What do these benefits and what do the user economics look like for decentralized systems? So say if I have a signal analysis problem that I want to send to a decentralized network, can it really compete with some of these larger systems?
I'm going to go to our case studies. Because we are doing the decentralized data storage. So the use case for us is everybody have a video camera at your home, right? And everybody knows Amazon Ring. When somebody click ring your door, the data go sometimes directly to the placement, right? It's quite scary. And I am a good neighborhood. At one night around 11 p.m., I take my dog out. I notice my neighbor's garage door is still open. It's very dangerous. So I ring the bell to my neighbor, and my neighbor didn't come to the door. I'm assuming he might think, what kind of person ring the bell in the middle of the night? So I wait for a few seconds. I notice the camera is shooting at me. So I take the dog out, and I just want to let him know that your garage door is open. You should close. It's dangerous. And then when I walk by, when I get back to my home, I look back and I notice my neighbor's door gradually, closed. I'm so happy for him. But I'm kind of worried if they use the Amazon Ring, my data will transmitted to the placement. That make me really feel scary. Here is FoggyMax come in place. FoggyMax have a connection. Currently have IoT Connect. It can connect to your home devices. For example, the next right now is the temperature. It monitor your home temperature, but our next device, IoT device is the home camera. So that means with this device, there have 3 zones. One zone is very private. You can store your private data, store on your device, and make a copy among the other Foggy in your network. And the second one is access control. That means you can have control of your data if shared or not. The third one is the public data. So if, for example, in the future, if you want, if you want the data to be trained by the AI module, we have a underlying smart contract ERC 7585, just approved by the ETH community developer, and each data has a tag, so you have your ownership to your data. If you trade, you can get assented by that. So in this way, home video data, you can control which go to placement and which to keep at your home.
So I just bought a security camera for my apartment, and honestly, they scare the crap out of me. Anything connected to the internet brings fear because none of it's documented. You don't know where the data's going. There's no security audits. If these were crypto companies, people would be very concerned. So you would argue that this is actually better from a security. The main benefit here is the security and the privacy. Like that's a real something that's resonating.
Yeah, and it's cheaper. For example, can this data...
Can it actually be cheaper?
Yeah, exactly, because it's on the blockchain. It's on the Datamo chain, decentralized data storage chain, where we use the Nash consensus as the underlying principle, and it's more like a marketplace. So you can find the cheapest storage on our...
What do you guys think? This is a big debate of, hey, if I need to store data, is it cheaper to go to AWS, a centralized cloud, or use some of these decentralized systems like Akash? What do you guys think?
I think one of the first decentralized storage system, which actually sort of worked and people used, was uTorrent and BitTorrent.
Yeah.
We would seed files, and people wouldn't even earn any monetary rewards with those, but people would still use them. We still have really old movies, really old files that are still being seeded, right? So right now with DePIN, I think one of the most 2 most important things which are being sort of worked on is sharing and also monetization. So on the sharing side, we have something like BitTensor, right? Which is sort of, you're participating in a peer-to-peer network, which you're sharing, training, creating AI and ML algorithms, right? and that sort of shows you the aspects of like why a decentralized sort of computing would make sense in some sort in a thing like that. Also on the monetization side as well, like for example, like when user data is used by these corporations and stuff, they don't really earn from it, right?
There's a great quote. It says the take rate, the cut that Apple and Google and some of these companies take is higher than the mafia in the 1920s and 30s in Chicago.
Exactly. I mean, like if you look at the App Store for Apple, they take a huge cut of like in-app purchases, right? If you don't accept their terms, they just kick you off. So in terms of like monetization, like if user's data is being used, they should definitely be rewarded for it, right? So it's basically you're taking something like BitTensor and you're like making it way better because now the user has way more incentives to actually share data for processing, right?
So I want to get into this idea that DePIN fundamentally shifts the core economics of almost everything from data to compute to even electric vehicle charging. I'm really interested in this idea that there's all this compute power in our pockets. Smartphones get the latest chips. In many cases, smartphones are 2 or 3 node processes. So this is like the generation of chips you buy from TSMC ahead of server racks. So I'm interested in this idea of actually doing compute on a phone. I think this is going to be the next era of this. Maybe you have some things to add. I know you're working on a phone with this idea in mind, so I'd love to hear also from you. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, from our perspective, our sort of value proposition is to enable anyone with compute resources to contribute to
including a phone, because I know many people will not support a smartphone.
Yeah, so to be honest, the technology isn't there yet to support phones or even like individual laptops or gaming rigs, because we're focused on compute for enterprise companies. And enterprise companies just flat out don't want their data or even pieces of their compute workloads on random computers.
So you think that doing decentralized computing on smartphones today is a bit sci-fi? It's not quite there yet.
It's not quite there yet.
Okay.
But as the panelists before us said, M1s and M2s, they're becoming cheaper and they're becoming more abundant right now. So
the Apple Steve chips.
The Apple chips, right? So as more and more of those come up, it makes that sort of narrative more possible. And then it'll trickle down to cell phones. And then cell phones will finally be able to do this compute.
It's spinning up data centers. So obviously AI is causing a lot of demand for compute in data centers. And if you look at the actual cost of a data center, the chips aren't that much. The energy cost is quite a big cost of the data center and cooling. And if you look at compute at scale, I believe it's cheaper to do it in a centralized system because you can just you have the unit economics when you order the chips. You have the unit economics when you're running a cooling system. Now you're putting an AI chip right into a phone. It sounds like you really believe phones can be a very powerful decentralized compute platform. So how are you looking at this? And do you think the economics can make a lot more sense than a centralized server farm running next to a solar farm? So,
well, to quote my lawyer, it depends. Very expensive answer, but so
that'll be $100,000 in an hour.
Payable and untethered. USD below dollar. Nonprofit stablecoin. Let me plug that. Anyways, so there's efficiencies and inefficiencies, and so there's friction that happens in the traditional market, and that's a lot of that friction is basically revenue, profit is generated for, and maybe let's take the example of hotel chains, right? Since the hotels, they're centralized, they geared towards housing people, but there's an opportunity for people that are doing Airbnbs. They're not using their home at that particular time, or it's a smaller home. It's a little bit different. It's not quite as private sometimes as a hotel room. You're maybe getting a room shared with other people, but it fits a niche. There is a need for that type of efficiency. So that market has grown.
What is that market though for running decentralized AI on a phone? I'm really curious. What do you think is going to be the killer use case for that?
Decentralized AI is going to want decentralized inference, right? And they'll be able to accept that. It's not Amazon saying, no, we don't want this running on consumer products because of our data preservation and our OPSEC. It's going to be decentralized AI that requires it. Now, I've heard this really crazy theory that the blockchain was actually put here. Satoshi Nakamoto is AI because AI requires blockchain to put itself into when it reaches sentience so that we can't shut it off. And if that's the case, AI is going to want decentralized AI so that we can't shut it off. It'll want decentralized compute so we can't shut it off. Now, that's an extreme example, but it does portray an example where, people maybe they don't want centralization because they don't want censorship. And so having a decentralized system allows for avoidance of censorship of maybe, it's hard to vision the future in all the different areas, but there's some pretty drastic regimens in the world today that censor a lot of things. And so not all censorship is bad. And so, I believe freedom of expression and freedom of speech and freedom of information is a human right. And that's one of the things that blockchain gives us is this human right. And so by having this phone in your pocket that can do this data computations on itself, that gives you the privacy and the right to have that. And so that's part of the whole ethos of how blockchain started. And I think as long as we continue to support that, it's going to be central to the system of blockchain improving and becoming better for what the people need and want.
So if you believe that Satoshi was put here to...
No. I don't believe that. That was a theory I heard.
Oh, okay.
I was using that as an example.
I like that theory. I think that's a great theory. But if you believe that the key to using blockchain is actually this control over data and decentralizing AI models, I wanted to actually dive into the data aspect of this and access control. Obviously, there's a lot of things happening in Europe right now with decentralized KYC credentials, really pushing decentralized identity. This is something where Europe is actually leading the US and really thinking about these sorts of things. So I wanted to talk about how does just data access control within DePINs, what's happening today and where is this heading? I know some of you guys are working on data as well.
Yeah, so like for example with Rivalz, we're working on basically providing data sets for AI apps and systems. So the main issue I think most the DePIN networks face when sharing data is how do we encrypt it, right? So there are different sort of methods projects are taking. Like for example, us Rivalz, we're taking the FEG approach. And the main thing is it's sort of like blind computation, right? Where you're decrypting and processing data without actually knowing what the data is, right? So so having this sort of like algorithms that help you use data without actually compromising the identity of someone is really important. So the industry is sort of moving towards that into solving that sort of problems. I mean, there is a lot of like talk about like quantum computing. What if it can break all the data sets and like steal KYC information, wallets, all that kind of stuff.
Probably.
But if a quantum computer were to get quantum supremacy, nuclear launch codes will be available, right? I mean, we'd have much more bigger problems than just KYC data.
Quantum computing can break private, what's it called? One-time passwords, which are, I think, how the nuclear codes are stored. So hopefully there's hope. But yes, I do expect quantum computing is going to pop up. It's going to start breaking a lot of things. If you just look at history, you look at who's investing in quantum computers, it's probably going to be a big trend.
Yeah, but also it's about like, when
one-time pad, that was the technical term.
When we move, normally, like if you look at historically, whenever we move as an industry and we advance in one specific field, we always also advance in another field as well. So with like the quantum field, advancing so quickly, we also advance in the cryptography, quantum resistance field as well, where experts will there'll be experts on both sides trying to fix issues, so that once we do have quantum supremacy, we don't face any issues, right? That is the main hope.
So if we have to now deal with private data in a new way, handle it properly, do you think we're moving into a space where everything is more on like a trusted compute environment, or are we going to be running computations in more new, fringe, very computationally heavy methods? Where do you guys see that going? Is everything going to be running on Intel SGX, which is kind of like a black box that you hope is secure, or will we be doing more kind of exotic cryptographic methods to privacy and compute on that data?
I think open source methods will pop up soon. Like for example, with like the Llama models from Meta, right? We're hoping that those models they keep them open source, but they will reach a time when Meta will refuse to share the models with us, right? It's
Do you think it'll get to that point where these big companies say, "Hey, we won't share these models anymore.
yeah, and
It's too good. You cannot have this."
And it might be the government that puts a stop on that too.
yeah, and I actually hope
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I know that's what they're trying to do in Europe.
and I actually hope they actually do that, because that would force people like us to actually create open source models that everybody else can use, right? We would need that. We would need them to shun them from themselves to actually make advancements for ourselves, so that open source algorithms for data processing, llamas, LLMs, LAMs as well, becomes more open source, and they become more secure because of that as well.
Do you guys think that decentralized AI will ever take off? I know if there's a lot of people doing decentralized AI projects right now, the technology is really cool, but if you look at where all the money's going, 99% of all the funding's going towards massive data centers. People are looking at spinning up nuclear reactors to power these data centers. They're buying out TSMC's chip fabs for years ahead. They're even worried about TSMC, so they're building out chip fabs here in the US. And these are all massive centralized operations. So do you guys think decentralized AI has a chance, and where will that apply?
Yeah, I do think we need a partnership, like a DePIN sector. By the end of the 2022, is expected to be the $80 billion, right? But I
hope so.
Yeah, but that is research set. And but as we know, for last quarter, for the NVIDIA chips, it sells $26 billion. And looking at the whole year, only NVIDIA chips sells more than DePIN, the whole sectors. So, because we are new startups, we work on our advantage. So we are the data storage of sector. We need to work together to grow this. So I do think for myself, I need decentralized AI because, as big company train the model, and then we have an AI inference level and the AI agent, and we build AI OS on our FoggyMax. So we will expect I won't have my own personal AI module. So when I get 80 years old, I ask for example, robotics at home, and what color should I go, what kind of things he can serve myself. So I do think if we look at it long term, we need to work together, grow together, support each other.
I think it's essential. You could definitely argue that the chances of civilization surviving increase significantly if decentralized AI is deployed at scale at some point. You could also make the counter argument. You were going to say something.
Yeah. Just to get a shift to a lighter mood, maybe than like Armageddon. But I think that where we at DePHY really see it. I don't want to speak to the decentralized AI component. I think some of my friends up on stage are better equipped at that side. But certainly on the data side, these DePIN projects are incentivizing users to do something that they otherwise wouldn't be doing, whatever the specific subsector within DePIN we're talking about. So I certainly think that the data component will be decentralized, at least will be a piece of it.
Yeah, same thing. The decentralized AI, I think, has a long way to go. But the thing that we're addressing, the same sort of point that DePHY is pushing, is that we're focused on decentralizing the compute layer, and then everyone who's building on top of us, it's really up to them. But the way that we're seeing it right now, it's actually Web 2 companies who are using us, decentralized compute companies. A bunch of our enterprise companies are Web 2 companies, and we're now more seeing...
Why are they using your system versus other systems?
So as opposed to AWS or CoreWeave or Lambda, it's an economical value proposition that we're offering initially. Beyond that, since these guys are enterprise customers, they want that form of security, reliability, uptime, and ensuring that there's privacy protections and that thing. And we are one of the first, if not the only ones, to first offer that on an enterprise level. That's also another way on an economic perspective, and more on a fundamental perspective on how we see this space growing on decentralized compute. The macro vision of us is not really to compete against Akash or IONET. We're all on the same page, like you said, right? So we're collaborating with them. We're supplying them GPUs so that they too can sort of spread the sort of message of decentralized compute, so more and more companies can build decentralized AI.
So I see a lot of long-looking faces. So I think we need to bring up the topic again of SETI and aliens and other more interesting things. Where do you guys see this, say, in 50 years or 100 years, where we're really thinking about what core technologies for civilization? Building settlements on Mars. Hey, we have to build a delay-tolerant network that can just move Wikipedia data to Mars. Thinking about the core fundamental building blocks of civilization, where do you think DePIN will fit in 100 years from now? What's going to be the parts of DePIN that really underlie the core of everyday life?
Elon Musk's neural brain, I think, will play a part of that. So we'll be part of a decentralized entity that eventually foresee humanity almost merging with technology, and so that integrate the internet things so much into brain and ecosystem. So we're one technologically, so we're autonomous and individual that the data path entity because all repository.
So that's kind of crazy that we're literally like 1 or 2 years away from commercial telepathy, which is kind of insane to think about. I realized that watching the videos a few days ago. I would argue, I would want a decentralized system if I was putting anything into my brain. I think medical devices is a great example. You mentioned that you were going to say something.
So I was going to say, like, in the case of Neuralink, for example, right? Information is growing at such a fast rate that it's really hard for new generations to keep up with what has already been done and discovered. Like, for example, it took Einstein years to come up with theory of relativity, right? But it takes a college student to learn that in one class, right? So you can imagine 100 years from now, with all the information you will have, it'll be kind of having a chip implant for accessing information will just be mandatory. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to function in society, right? So we are advancing at that at a very quick rate, but it is what the next step in humanity is, I think.
In this hyper futuristic world of AI, question for everybody: do we think that it widens the wage gap? Does it shrink the wage gap? What does that world look like?
My perspective, it will widen the wage gap, or it'll sort of allow people to earn in alternative ways, right? So 30 years ago, it'd be crazy to say I want to earn money and by becoming a YouTuber, right? We couldn't fathom that now. And look at, from a technology perspective, the cost of a flat screen TV, right? It costs like $300 for a 50-inch TV at Walmart or Costco. Something that Cameron said earlier is that in the future, your refrigerator, or your IoT device inside your home will be making money for you. And that's sort of the future that I see, right? Like alternative ways of earning money. So I come from the Web3 gaming, Axie Infinity, play on your cell phone to earn money, right? So as we progress in the future, I see more and more ways of DePIN contributing to sort of the core income of individuals.
Well, I could just say that the Coral phone implant will have nodes in it to earn money. So that'll be a way to.
So you'll have a helium node implanted in your skull.
We'll see.
Yeah, it's a new way of
probably
earning money. Like Facebook earns money when you browse, right? So.
Yeah, to add on you, and I do think right now inflation is high, and a lot of the full-time jobs become part-time, and also as AI take over a lot of the jobs, like my friends went to the hackathon, so they're talking about if I design this one, how can I replace the teacher's job? That's kind of scary to me. And also, New York Times do some perspectives on the AI. So it's going to take over a lot of people's jobs. So I would say our, blockchain, each project have token, and this token is valuable. And just like right now, the past ETF, Bitcoin ETF, and also past the Ethereum ETF. So I do see maybe, who knows in the future, because AI is threatening a lot of people's
I
jobs.
mean, it's fun. It's a chance to rethink the fundamental economics of reality, which is kind of crazy. Something that we're working on, I didn't bring them, but is printed computers. So we're working with a couple of companies now that are building printed stickers that cost $1. They have a small ARM chip in them. They have Bluetooth. In a couple of years, they'll have satellite capabilities, AI built in. They'll be solar powered, run forever. And this means that we will literally live in a world where there will be trillions of computers embedded into everything. We'll probably have computers floating around the upper atmosphere of Earth, as grains of dust. And this is going to be a world where we are inside this giant machine, this giant interconnected, kind of hyper-intelligent, hyper-connected world. Go ahead.
The sort of hope is that, like the first computers were humans, right? They would use calculators and machines and to do calculations, right? And that evolved into what we have right now. So the hope is that, humans found other jobs to do, right? So for example, in the case of writing, with ChatGPT, you can spin up, an article in seconds, right? But you that's the same way with writers. You have quality over quantity. You favor the writers who have quality writers. In the scope of ChatGPT, you would favor someone who is a prompt engineer who can specify exactly what sort of article you want, what parameters you want to actually output a quality article, right? For example, so the sort of jobs will sort of change. Hopefully, that is the hope. A lot of jobs will be lost, but that will just be the next revolution in terms of where humans can be used in the next big adventure, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because I have a different opinion on AI, because AI right now the realities take over a lot of people's jobs. But I think if AI to put on the human goods, it will maybe help the elderly people, to help them do some life assistance. Right now, if you have a very old parents at home, you take off your time to take care of them, and if AI can do something to help us to improve our older people's quality of life, that'd be great. But right now, the first job AI take is computer science and developers. That's scary, because I do think I agree. Right now, OpenAI is OpenAI, but the origin of OpenAI established is for the human being, for the good of the human being. So I think we better to go back to original thought, instead of take off so many people's job. Or if you take off this job, you'll find another way for people to work.
So I just want to move away from the discussion of what is AI going to do, because it's interesting. It's going to be fascinating. It's going to be wild. Who knows? It sounds like it's clear that DePIN offers a way for people to make money in this new world where we don't really know if there's going to be full-time jobs, or at least full-time jobs will change very drastically. So that's quite compelling. And kind of as we wrap up this really interesting discussion, I wanted to see what is the most insane application of DePIN that you can imagine out in the future. Where is your head at when you guys fall asleep thinking about DePIN? What is kind of the craziest idea? I'm going to go start with you because I have some interesting ideas.
I think I can imagine creating an equalization on incomes from humans, right? And so taking the power away from the centralized organizations. For example, we're a Binance Labs project, but Binance Labs doesn't have a majority control over us, and they don't get the majority of the profits. It's going to be the users that are getting the profits. Those who participate in the DePIN itself and that provide the service will be getting the profits. And so it's a profit sharing that takes it away from the 1% of the world and the major corporations and spreads it out among the people of the world. So the more that the people are able to use the DePINs and have the devices, it'll help to subsidize the loss of income that comes from AI, taking over jobs.
Yeah, I think DePIN is going to get really popular. Specifically, though, going back to earlier, I was talking about, utilizing things that we already have, utilizing cheap cell phones, laptops, etc., things that people don't have to buy to then spin up and make money off of. I think that those sort of devices and those sort of DePIN applications will be widely adopted in sort of the lower income countries of the world. I think that, as you said, it's going to play a big role in people's incomes going forward. And it seems like, it could be a variation of sort of the side hustle world that we've grown up in.
I mean, with the Nodle app, like we let people share their Bluetooth and make money. We're able to light up countries in Africa in a couple of weeks. It's crazy. Everyone's earning a little bit of income, and not much, but it's
meaningful.
Yeah, it really makes people happy.
It's meaningful.
Yeah,
And it's easy. I run a Nodle app. It's simple.
Yeah, for
craziest application of DePIN.
Yes, I agree with what you guys at Nodle said, and also what Karen also said. So, and what you're working on, right? So it's the ability to install AI on your phone and have AI just essentially your worker in your pocket. That's where I think the industry should be headed towards, because it's an inevitability that AI, or there's going to be ways to make money via devices as opposed to just the traditional 9-to-5 way.
Yeah, I think decentralized AI is probably one of the best use cases that we could come up with in the future. Right now, we are a very long way from it, but it was sort of like take the power away from these corporations like OpenAI and Gemini, all that kind of stuff, because right now they have the compute resources to run those AI algos, but we don't. But I think decentralized AI is probably one of the best use cases. We should.
Yeah, I think decentralized is individual, and there's good. I mean, it is the individual digitalized, and we do want to help a lot of projects to get on board with our launch pad, which you can airdrop your token to our user. Right now we have 3,500 Foggy user, and by end of this year we will be over 100K. So that means we welcome the project work with you. Your project token drop on our FoggyMax, so our FoggyMax user can benefit from the crypto income.
Very good. I think we're about to wrap up. Does anybody have any questions in the audience? Can be about anything. Try us. Yes, sir.
You think that the Tesla with the self-driving mode and people being able to share their car, kind of the ultimate DePIN, do you think it's going to happen?
That's sort of the announcement that Elon Musk made, right? So it's allowing full self-driving mode to be allowed in the streets, and then that's his mandate, right? So that's his moonshot, is to make the decentralized Uber, essentially.
I think that we're going to see cars that don't have steering wheels in our lifetime. I think that there will be cars sold, no steering wheels. It's fully autonomous. You couldn't drive it if you wanted to.
Yeah, decentralized Elon Musk cars are also going to do inference computing on cars. So it's another element of inference computing done on the device. It just leads into having the devices that can do the AI. Not only does it give you efficiency, a heads up, a leg up against the competition. If you could do the AI efficiently in a private manner, that gives you even more heads up and leg up against competition. And having multiple devices that can do this will increase your earning power. So it's just, in a way, it also creates a difference between the haves and the have-nots. And so, get the haves and become part of the AI revolution, because DePIN is the answer that provides income to fight the AI revolution that's happening. And so it's like using the tool against itself to benefit in a way that benefits humanity and the people that you know and yourself.
Yeah. Well, all I can say is it's going to be an interesting next decade for sure. I think we're out of time unless you had something really quick.
No, Tesla's a software company, and they're going to be shilling Doge more. So
I am a fan, but if you look at their financials, they're pretty clearly a car company for now. Exactly. See if it changes.
They're not valued like one.
Well, thank you everybody so much for coming and rambling about aliens and AI and DePIN, because you have to make a panel interesting. The whole point of us being. And hopefully you guys learned some things. Come chat with us after the show, and have a beautiful evening, guys. Thank you.